Most of the male fireflies have two segments in their light organ. The light organ in female, then, is slightly different with different species. The male's light organ of the Luciolinae has only one segment. Many Lunchirinists, their female light organ is dot-like in two lines, side by side. Some individuals are in two pairs, some are in three pairs. However, for the male, its light organ is still in two segments. There are some species their light organ is more unique, such as the female firefly of Lampigera unanus has a pair of light organs at the tip of its abdomen. They look like the letter U. Different species, besides the shape of the light organ is unlikely the same, there are some differences between the color of light and the frequency of the flashes. And the frequency of the flashes is the important accord of how they recognize each other, attracting mates, and finally breeding. When it is the time for fireflies to become an occurrence stage, it is their breeding season. Every late afternoon, when the sky is getting dark, the male fireflies will gradually crawl out from rocks, mounds, and under some fallen leaves, where they hide temporarily during daytime, and fly to the sky. Each species has its own well-defined flash sequence. The male firefly flies in the dark, is to find the female firefly. Different species mainly rely on their distinctive flash frequency to find the right mate and complete the mission of breeding. Although in the world of fireflies, flashing is the main way of many species to mate, however, it still needs to match other conditions in order to complete the purpose of breeding. Especially the diurnal fireflies cannot depend on their flashes to communicate between two sexes. The female of these species, like many other insects, can give out a distinctive pheromone. This so-called pheromone is a scent that can be sprayed in the air. The male firefly uses its remarkable antenna to feel the direction of the scent and is able to locate the female firefly very fast. This is how they can communicate with each other and are able to mate and breed at last. Firefly is classified as an insect of the Coleoptera. Naturally, its life has to go through four distinct forms. They include adult firefly, egg larva, and pupa. Each change of form is completely different from each other. Therefore, a firefly belongs to complete metamorphosis type in etymological terms. More interestingly, in a life of a firefly, from the egg to the adult, many of these forms can glow. A few of species, its eggs are fluorescent, and almost all species larvae can also glow. This is why some diurnal and lightless adult fireflies are also categorized as fireflies. It is because of its larva, as well as its pupa, can glow. Some of adult fireflies, beside their light organ, Their whole body can glow in the dark too. It makes us feel that it is the most magnificent wonder of all, after we see the details of the light production in fireflies. According to laboratory observation in general, most of the adult fireflies do not feed. They only rely on the liquid which is provided by the researcher in the lab to survive. Their purpose to survive is to oviposit. Some species of fireflies will deposit their eggs on the moss or the water plants. Some then go through their ovipositor and deposit the eggs in the wet mud. In most of species, its egg takes about 20 days to a month to hatch. Some species, its egg is so-called wintering egg, needs to wait all winter until next spring to hatch. These Taiwanese mountain windowed firefly's eggs are the perfect example for this case. Its larva will develop in the egg from October to next spring. Then it will prepare to hatch out. We can use special equipment to photograph its overnight hatching procedure in less than 20 seconds time. When the larva of the Taiwanese mountain windowed firefly first squirms burst from an egg, its whole body is all white. It then will find a safe shelter and rest quietly. It takes a short time for it to change its body color. Its color will change into gray gradually, then into black. Meanwhile, it will get stronger. They will begin to feed after several hours. To mention about larvae's feeding habits, we need to talk about its habitats first. Some etymologists group them into aquatic type, semi-aquatic type, and terrestrial type based on their natural growth environment. The larva of an aquatic type lives in the well-covered and not polluted water. It mainly preys on the snails in the water. The larva of a semi-aquatic type rests near the water during the daytime, especially in the rocks and vegetated bushes by some small waterfalls. It will sink into the water to feed on snails at night. When it catches its prey, it will drag its prey away from the water to a place and feed on its prey slowly. There are many species in large group terrestrial type larvae in fireflies of Taiwan. They mainly inhabit in the moist environment, places such as the bottom of a dense forest, and some shady areas under the cliffs with shorter sunshine. The earthworms in the deciduous forest are the diet for some of them. The small marsh snails are also the food for certain terrestrial larvae. The large grouped snails in the forest are the main diet for many of them as well. When they find their prey, they will use their sharp mouth parts to attack the snail's antenna first. In the beginning, the snail will give out some saliva and form it into babbles to confuse the enemy, so it can find the chance to escape. As soon as the larva is confused with the situation, the slow-moving snail will find another way to escape. It is to shake its shell sideways and try to avoid the attack from the larva. It looks like the snail is almost going to succeed. Unfortunately, the final result is not as it is expected. After several minutes of the attack, the escape, the poisonous liquid, and the saliva war, the snail eventually ends up at the larva's dinner table. The larva needs to molt 6 times during its larval period. Each time, a new and bigger skin grows in place of the old one. A newly molted larva looks and acts exactly the same as it first emerges from an egg. When it is ready to shed its skin for the last time, many terrestrial-type larvae will dig in the soil or the roots to make a small chamber. It will stay inside to finish the last molting and become a pupa. But for the aquatic-type larvae, they will often leave the water to find a suitable place in the wet mud and vegetative bushes near the water before it's ready for pupate. As soon as it finds the place, it will not return to the water. If we observe some pupae carefully in the lab, from the outside there is no structure of cocoon. We can easily see its body parts and organs. Therefore, we call it pupa nuda. Usually, after 6 to 7 days, we can gradually see the changes from its appearance, especially the structure of its head and wings. We can almost see the shapes of them. Up to this stage, it needs about 1 to 2 days to become a winged firefly and ready for flight. If we examine the natural habitats in Taiwan, there is Mountain Yew that creates a very large-ranged ecosystem for us, from sea level up to 4,000 meters above sea level. There are high mountains with deep valleys, streams and rivers, and many rich forests. Plus the rainy season in the spring, the northeast seasoning wind in the fall and winter, and the afternoon mist in the high mountain areas. These all provide many moist